14 years, that is how long it's been since Amazon made a move like this. After a massive blowout, Amazon just witnessed a historic trading session. So today I will share with you the exact expectations I have for this development, the exact target I'm watching for the currently developing move to the upside, right? We are talking about the very near term, as well as the implications if it fails to hold the internal levels of support. Those are actually critical for managing to deliver on the broader expectations. Welcome to the trade setup. So for Amazon, we are looking at a very established uptrend, of course. We have had this as a wave 1 up, very nice one. A wave 2 correction down here, then this would all be part of the wave 3. I do not consider that a wave 3 top would be in, nor that we would be close to having a wave 3 top in. Within this wave 3, I expect the trend to continue for a fair bit longer. We could be talking about a few years, and we could be talking even about a couple of decades before we see the correction in the wave 4 that would match this correction in the wave 2. Now, in terms of the structure itself, I believe we would still be within the internal wave 3, right? The wave 3 of the large wave 3, where this could have worked out as the wave 1 up, the wave 2 would have been down here, and this wave 3 would still be extending right now. Within this wave 3, I actually believe we are looking at a wave 1 up here, a wave 2 down here. Then this, as a wave 3 to the upside itself, could still see very, very serious extensions. You see, within such large degree structures, it is fairly common that the wave 5 will see larger proportions. Typically within smaller time frame degrees, smaller time frame structures, we are looking at the wave 5 to be more of a match for the wave 1, yeah, something like this, where the wave 1 could have formed the top. And it still can actually. But when we are dealing with such a large time frame degree, it is not uncommon at all, and maybe even preferable, that the wave 5 ends up being more along the lines of the proportions of the wave 3 instead. Where instead of having this as a wave 5, we could instead be looking at an extended wave 5, where this would work out as the wave 1 of a larger wave 5. This would imply a wave 2 correction, a wave 3, a wave 4, and a wave 5 before actually topping within this larger wave 5. And as you can notice here, this does imply that we could see a fairly substantial drop. The risk for such an outcome is actually quite threatening, even to the current structure. But within the smaller time frame, I see very strong hints that the pattern to the upside is actually not complete. I see quite promising hints that we would be looking for the trend that you could argue has started yesterday to continue for a fair bit longer before seeing the larger correction. Interestingly enough, I see a similar pattern in the case of Google, another hyperscaler, that presents a quite similar opportunity. And to be honest, maybe even more upside. Now, regardless of whether this wave 5 would see the extension or not, regardless of whether we would see this work out as a 1-2, or this, once it forms a top, to have a top within a large wave 3, I'm looking for this wave to actually see an internal extension. I believe that this structure is actually not complete internally, and what I'm tracking within this development is something along the idea of this being a wave 1 up, this a wave 2 down, a wave 3 would have topped here, this would have been the wave 4, and right now, the wave 5 would be in development. And you could argue that this wave 5 would have already developed, would have already formed a top. But given the strength of yesterday's move, paired with the volume that's come with this rally, we could argue quite strongly that there is serious institutional backing for this structure to extend higher. And 35 billion worth of shares have been traded yesterday alone. We have seen a 15% increase, a 15% jump paired with this move within such a large cap stock. This is rather a strong suggestion that we will see the price extend higher. Now, I will not leave you with this implication alone, because from a technical perspective, we get some quite interesting ideas here. And I'm looking at this structure to potentially have a top in within this large wave 5, or a larger wave 1 up. If this were to be a top, I would expect a quite large correction. I would expect that if it were to get an overshoot within such a structure, the bottom of the correction wouldn't necessarily even reach the levels of support expected to be reached within either a wave 2 or the larger white wave 4. So that is actually not a particularly likely pattern, which means that if we get a break above the top, above $280, around 278, we are looking with high likelihood for the structure to continue higher, or for maybe a reset within this as a 1-2 structure. Now, this also means that if we do not get the break above this high, it is actually still quite possible that we will see more direct extensions lower, that we will see something like a 1, 2, 3, 4, and a 5, quite possibly within a wave A. And this is not a prediction that it cannot still fall lower if we see the break above the highs. But in terms of probabilities, it would be rather preferable in that case that we either have a bottom in within this as a wave 2, or that we will see at most a reset within this wave 2, and in the end I will still end up tracking a similar structure to allow extensions higher. In this sense, I have pretty good odds of seeing this structure succeed in fulfilling these expectations. We can actually have quite accurate targets for this as a wave 3. And I'll be looking at the 138.2% extension of the wave 1, and that sits roughly around $360. That is where I would primarily be looking for this wave 3 to reach. And it could exceed it, but do keep in mind that this would be an extended wave 5 within a larger wave 5 of an even larger wave 3. So it's not necessarily the point in the trend where we expect exorbitant extensions beyond what we would typically be tracking. But it is true that even though we could expect a top to form within the wave 3 here, the wave 4 and the wave 5 could very easily actually see extensions even higher. Nonetheless, in this very move, I am looking at $360, give or take a few dollars there. That is the target, that is what I would typically expect to be reached if the pattern is to follow through. So we have a quite clear path. We have a massive jump in a massive stock. We have volume backing. But what we don't have is an initial 5 move to the upside within this yellow wave 3. What we don't have is a strong guarantee that this structure will see the pattern succeed. So what does it need to do? Well, within the smaller time frame, from the wave 2 bottom that I'm tracking, I'm looking at what appears to be 3 waves up at this point. This means I would still need a wave 4 correction to happen, so I expect a correction to be the preferable path, and then a 5th wave, right? Once we have this pattern in place, we are looking at much better odds of identifying a correction within a wave 2, and then continuation to even higher prices within the wave 3 of the large wave 3. So based on this expectation, what I'm looking for is the correction in the wave 4 to hold the levels of support extending down to the 50% retracement. I do not want to see a sustained break below this level, below $253.30. But I would also typically expect for the area of support to be reached before seeing the extension directly higher within the wave 5. Failing to reach those levels would imply that a more direct development would occur for this as a larger wave 3, and it would imply that we may not even get a particularly promising opportunity to look for an entry. Because if we see such a direct extension, I have to assume that this would have been another wave 1 up, and this would have been the wave 2 down, where the wave 3 would develop from the current levels, and it would still need to reach the ideal target of the internal structure most likely. Now, before we actually end here, I will leave you with one more thought, because while I do quite strongly expect to see this 4th and a 5th form at the very least, before seeing a larger failure, I have to consider that it could all just be part of an internal correction, that this could have been something like a wave A down, And this would work out into an ABC pattern in the wave B, in which case we would have a top in once we form here the 4th and the 5th, and that would allow a complete reset within this yellow wave 2. Overall, it could still track a bullish pattern, but it would not present the same opportunities. Because for it to invalidate the structure that has already started in what could be the wave 3 would imply a larger correction within this yellow wave 2. And to be honest, it is already a bit large. It's a bit larger than ideal even. Now, with all of that said, right now I'm watching this orange interpretation that could allow a wave C to see even lower prices, but primarily, even within it, I expect one additional high at the very least to be the most likely path. Then, if this structure cannot hold the 50% retracement, there is a large threat that the entire pattern will fail even more directly. And there is a special scenario, let's say, that would allow this to turn into a double 1-2 that could allow a slightly deeper retracement than the 50%. But you have to understand the context where this would become a very unlikely path. Right now, we are tracking a wave 3. And pushing below the 50% retracement in the case of such a structure would imply a loss of momentum. Now, it does happen to reach sometimes the 61.8% retracement, which in the case of this stock would be right around $249. But already below the 50% retracement, the probabilities would have already been damaged for me, and below the 61.8% retracement, the likelihood for it to still work out is actually much worse. This is not financial advice, and ultimately it will be quite interesting to see how this further develops. So for now we will stop here, and if you want even more opportunities from me, you can check out the Patreon, but for now, these are the levels, this is the trade setup. I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, don't forget to leave a like, subscribe, and if you enjoyed the content and want to support it directly, check out the channel membership, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.